My name is Drum Major Kieran Boyle. I was on obviously the drum major of the pipes and drums of the Black Watch. I was honored by the command center to be the drum major, so I was very happy with that, and it's a bucket list for me to be being able to call out the Black Watch Royal Highland Regiment of Canada Pipes and Drums by the Center Quick March. So I was happy with that, and behind the scenes I was one of the organizers of the trip, working in line with Eric and Andy, Danny, Colonel Bolton, Honorary Colonel Bolton, and then also Drum Major Hughes of the regimental pipes and drums.
And what was your takeaway from such an experience?
That's a pretty loaded question and very heavy question. I've been able to do quite a bit on my military career in the pipes and drums by traveling and experiencing many different parades and experiences. However, this one in Holland, having family that was here during World War II, and actually visiting some of the family graves that were killed in action, was very touching, very moving, very heavy. It was dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you would want to say, tell people about what you thought about how your trip what trip was like?
Our trip was absolutely awesome. Everybody in the band pulled together. There was many issues on the go. I realized on how the drum major can either be effective or ineffective on the parade, with many changes on the fly, different directions and timings. The entire band and the command staff pulled everybody together. It was seamlessly that with situations that arise during the. However, the biggest thing I would say is that every Canadian, especially the younger generation, should look to the Netherlands as a form of how to remember properly. I've never in my military career seen the amount of appreciation for Canada, let alone of any troops or any situation regarding World War II, that the outpouring of love, friendship, the love for Canada, it was just incredible. It was all, in Vanningen, when we went to the parade, it felt like 1945 again, on a ticker tape parade with confetti, flowers being thrown at us, the locals are screaming, and 5-6 deep with people on the roofs. It was mind-blowing. I know my job is to look straight ahead, but I was trying to take it in and experience a one-in-a-lifetime parade that was absolutely reflective of what the Canadians did here in 1945.
And to wrap it up, I know you probably already just expressed it, but is there anything else you'd like to say?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks to everybody that partake, right from the photography, the videography. Man, I can't talk anymore. It's at the end, the brain is fried. The piping was fantastic. The drumming corps was tight. I just want to say thank you to everybody who took part, and thank you to the regiment for allowing everybody to take part in this and representing the Black Watch effectively.
Thank you very, very much.
Okay, so my name is Karen Dimmick, and my connection to this is primarily through my husband, who is a member of the Black Watch and came on board as one of the pipers for the time that we have spent here in Holland. But I'm also the minister at St. Andrew's Church in Ottawa, which has strong connections with Holland. We've had members over the years who grew up in Holland, came after the war, members who lived through the war. And it's the church where the royal family of Holland worshipped during the war, and where the Princess Margriet was baptized. I think what was one of the more meaningful moments for me, though, was that 2 days before we embarked on this trip, I did a funeral for a gentleman he'd be 100 now, but he was 99 when he died. And his brother had died in the war, and when we were at the Holton Cemetery, we visited his brother's grave. and his brother died when he was 23. And every year in the church, when we would read out the names of the war dead, and we would remember Billy, well, Clifford, Billy, Kerr, it was special for his brother, and it felt, that his brother had lived to be almost 100, and he had died at 23, and it just brought home how much life was given. And I don't know, for me that was, and on this trip as well, Andy Kerr, who's the pipe major for the band, is related to that family as well, and it just sort of brought home to me how important remembering is, like how Clifford Kerr, who died at 23, is part of the friendship I have with Andy Kerr and his wife, how he was part of the relationship I had with his brother, and how important it is to remember, to bring people's names forward and continue to live with them.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's beyond words, but it's been a very meaningful trip.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Hugh Dimmick. I'm a former serving officer in the Black Watch in the 80s and 90s. And actually, the thing that struck me was the friendliness of the Dutch people. And they went out of their way to welcome us. And I'll tell you a non-Black Watch story is that my wife's great uncle was in the Royal Air Force, and he was flying with the Royal Canadian Air Force in a Halifax bomber, and their mission was to bomb the Ruhr Valley, and they were shot down over the Netherlands, and we were in the neighborhood of the grave, the cemetery, the Commonwealth War Graves Cemetery that was set aside for 4 aircraft that went down in the Netherlands. And our host at the Canadian restaurant in Lockham went out of his way. He took an hour and a half out of his day to drive us to the cemetery where Karen was able to visit with her great uncle after many, many years of her Uncle Fergie being talked about in the family. I believe we're the first to have gone to visit his grave. And not only did Barry, our Dutch host, take us to the graveyard, when we posed the question, I wonder where he went down, Barry looked it up, and he drove us to where the aircraft went down. And it was very moving for us, and it wouldn't have happened if Barry hadn't done what he did. And so just one example of how the Dutch went out of their way to host us and make this a memorable trip.
Thank you.
Well, I'm Eric Booth, and I'm basically the coordinator of this whole trip. And it's a 4-year project, and as I said earlier to the group, it's taken 4 years for this to evolve, but it's the same time frame that the Dutch were occupied by the Germans. And it's pretty much the same time frame that it took for the Allied forces to land in France. So it kind of relates to it, and things happen for a reason. And it's something that we've accomplished, such as visiting every single grave of the Black Watch in the Regiment de Maisonneuve and placing a flag. It's something that will never ever be repeated. And on our way, we've met a lot of good people and had commemorations throughout the Netherlands and following the footsteps of the original pipe band and also the troops. And again, that's something that'll never be recreated. Each member of our group carried identity of an original band member. In addition, the support company and the members of the Regiment de Maisonneuve and the Black Watch carried identity of people who are buried within the Netherlands. So it's a trip of remembrance. It's a trip of following and honoring our members who also returned back to Canada in the pipe band, as well as the veterans. And it's a way to continue the bond between the Netherlands and Canada. And there is a very strong bond, which was reinforced by this trip.
Is there anything that affected you personally?
The only thing that really affected me personally was when I was under the impression that we were missing 7 wreaths So once we got the 7 wreaths found, then I was able to relax a little more and keep going with the way we were. And even though it was 4 years of planning, and we would step into a venue and all of a sudden we're flying by the seat of our pants, because things have changed on us and we were now going with the flow and adapting to a new environment, just like the troops would have been doing 78 years ago. They had a plan and they had to modify it.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Oh, it's a great trip. And it's not, I'm not just saying that because I was on it or organized it. It was a great trip. Just by talking to people, the reception we have from the community, the feedback I'm getting now from the people who I had contacts with in the community. They want us to come back next year. They want to come back the year after, because Netherlands was liberated over 2 years. So next year is the 80th anniversary in the south, and in 2 years is the 80th anniversary in the north. And then everybody else is also asking who's on the trip, when is the next trip? So it started off in 2018 with World War I, now it's 2023 for World War II. What is next? We don't know. But remembering, we'll be involved.
Lieutenant Colonel retired Bruno Plourde. I was the commanding officer of the Black Watch White Island Regiment of Canada from 2009 to 2013, and again 2017 to 2020. What I did over the last 2 weeks was basically continuing my regimental pilgrimage, learning more and actually put a human dimension. I have physical evidence of the deeds and the exploits of our fallen members during the Second World War, the Battle of the Scheldt, and all the way up to Groningen. So it was pretty cool for me to actually see what we heard and what I read about these people.
Is there anything that, any experiences that are that jump out at you throughout this experience?
I think there's 2 aspects of the experience I got through as a military, as an officer, looking at the battlefield, looking at the sheer difficulty of what members of the regiment and the old Canadian Infantry Brigade and the Canadian Forces got through during the Battle of the Scheldt and all the way up for the battle to liberate Netherlands. The second aspect was going to the military cemeteries to pay homage to all the people that lost their life and never saw their family back, never saw their loved one back, and their age. Initially, I came as a young officer 20 odd years ago. These people were my age or younger. Now actually seeing on tombstone name of young men that are the age of my sons. So it brought a totally different dimension about service and what it would mean to lose a loved one to war and to never see him again.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Truly enjoyed my trip. Tremendous group of people coming from all walks of life. So over history and over respect of history and in respect of our military heritage and their families, because most of them got families that fought with the Black Watch or other Canadian unit in Netherlands. It was a pretty good human experience over and above the historical and military experience.
Yes, my name is Francis Roy. I'm the commanding officer of the Black Watch Royal Highland Regiment of Canada. And on the trip, try to represent correctly the unit and follow the instruction of Eric Booth, who was the big planner of this event. And yeah, that's it for me.
Is there anything that quelque chose qui est très impressionnant pendant cette expérience?
What is very impressed me, it's the all of the people of the Black Watch coming together, volunteer, pay their trip to come here and commemorate the soldiers of the Black Watch who gave their lives. So it's amazing to see the people who regrouping together to do this kind of things.
Is there anything that you noticed about the Dutch people?
I talked with two guys of the army, but in general they are very sympathetic and they are very très reconnaissant, I think, for the Canadian soldiers who liberate the Netherlands. So I think I see the parade on 5 May, it was, wow, it impressed me. I saw a parade like this at the app, but not on a 3.5 kilometer of march, so yeah, very impressive.
Is there anything that you would like to add that you haven't said yet?
First of all, I want to thank the foundation and all of the people who helped the foundation with fundraising to give the opportunity to some member of the unit to come here, play with the band or represent the unit, like me and the RSM and Warren Detmar and Sergeant Roblesley. I want to say thanks to all of the other volunteers coming from Ottawa, Toronto, London, I don't know the city, regrouping together and have a beautiful band who I'm sure impressed a lot of persons. Ils ont donné le show. Can I say they are the highlight of, So it's amazing to be part of this group, the Black Watch family.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Brenda Grant. I'm a retired high school teacher, and my connection has come through Highland Miss Pipe Band, and we had a connection with Eric Booth, and he asked if there were some volunteers, and so I said, it sounds like a lot of fun.
So Eric Booth is the connection.
Yes.
So now that you've gone through this 2-week journey, what sort of takeaways can you share?
One thing that I have to admit is the people that were on this tour were fantastic. And I also gained a new knowledge about Black Watch and about the military background, and I learned about all the battles and the history behind in 1944-45.
Is there any highlights that you would like to share?
The one that I really liked was the Liberation Woods. I was looking forward to seeing that. The grave sites were also very emotional and very, how would I put it? It's just the scope and the number of grave sites that we saw on the trip, and the lives that were lost during the war was rather overwhelming.
Is there anything else you would like to add?
I wouldn't mind traveling with this group again on another journey. I don't know whether that's a possibility, but it has been a life-altering experience and eye-opening to some of the things that I never liked history, but now I'm beginning to understand history more than I ever did in high school.
So So how is it? So life-altering how?
I think it's a realization of what the sacrifices people had made in order to bring freedom to lands. In Canada, I don't think we really understand the scope of what was involved and the sacrifices that our people made in order to bring freedom to another country.
Thank you very much.
All right. My name's Captain Sean Kent. I'm with the military police Reg Force in Trenton. I came on this trip as the photographer for the trip, so I basically worked with Colin and took pictures of the band doing all the different things, the monuments and the parades and the performances, and yeah, had a really great time.
What was your takeaways from this, with this 2-week, journey throughout the past 2 weeks?
So yeah, it was a good time experiencing all the different places the Black Watch went. The Liberation. My favorite spot, I think, was the parade that we marched in, seeing all of the local population come out and support the Canadians and the work that the Canadians did for the Liberation.
What was your connection? How did you get here? If you're military police, how did you get to the Black Watch Pipe Band?
So I run a charity called Remembrance Coin, and I also do work with Veterans Portrait Project. And I took a picture of the drum major, Kieran Boyle, and he invited me to come on the trip to take photos of the trip, just from the work I did with the Veterans Portrait Project.
Okay. And is there anything that, any highlights?
I think the best highlight was the parade that we went on, for sure, and just capturing the Black Watch following the steps of the previous Black Watch in World War II, capturing them paying their respects at the monuments was good as a photographer.
And what would you? And is there anything else you'd like to say that hasn't been said yet?
Nope. Just had a great time with the band, and if there's ever another one, I'll see if I can come back again.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
No problem.
I'm Jason McInnes. With regards to the band, I'm a tenor drummer, and I come from Calgary.
And how did you get connected with this?
Rod McLeod and I are friends, and so it was a referral through him that the band was looking for drummers, and I was a drummer with the Calgary Police Pipe Band. I've been a policeman in Calgary for 20 years.
And what takeaways have you had now that we're sort of at the conclusion of this little voyage that we've gone for the past 2 weeks? Anything you can share with that that you'll be some of the highlights for you?
I don't know. I'd say that parade in Wageningen. We went down the streets and just seeing how many people were there and how happy they were to have their freedom.
That was the May 5th.
May 5th parade, yeah.
Okay. And is there and so it's basically the Dutch people that you're saying that's the highlight?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. And is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Nope, that's good.
That's a very easy interview. Yeah, awesome.
Well, I'm Bruce Bolton. I've been with the Black Watch for basically my entire life. I am currently the honorary colonel of the regiment, which of course is a great distinction. Having commanded the regiment, having been the regimental sergeant major, and having been the pipe major and cadet pipe major.
And what was? Do you have any particular memories that you will always keep with you after this trip?
I consider this trip a pilgrimage, almost in the religious sense. It's a chance for you to go back to a place where huge differences happened that would have affected your life. And so going back to this pilgrimage was a reflection of my father, who was a sergeant major in the Black Watch during World War II, who had been wounded a few months earlier in Normandy, and came back to serve in the Holland trajet, in the Holland trip. And so it was my chance to finally see where and what he had done. That was my overriding purpose for this trip, but it was also my overriding desire that as many people as possible could see what happened in Holland. And we have always concentrated on the Normandy section of World War II, but it's the Holland section that really opens your eyes to the trouble that they went through.
What does that mean? Open your eyes? In what way?
It balances the story off. The regiment was decimated in just south of Caen. And then just a few months later, we're going into the Scheldt estuary battles, where the regiment was again devastated, Black Friday, for example. And then you're going further north, and they fought all the way through those areas. My father was wounded for the third time in Germany, but it was just off where Groningen was, and we're very close to the cemeteries where Canadians are now buried up there.
Are there any highlights of the trip that you would like to share?
Absolutely. Some of the highlights. Being there for the equivalent of their Remembrance Day, the Day of the Dead, May 4th. Absolute silence at 8 o'clock. All the towns gather in the town square. 8 o'clock, absolute silence. A real sense of remembrance. But then the next day is Liberation Day. The exact opposite. We had the chance of marching through town where the liberation had been signed. And I've never been in a parade like that before in my life, and I've done hundreds of parades where there were five people deep on each side of the street. It was only 2 or 3 kilometers long, but the "Thank You Canada" came out everywhere, and us being in period uniforms really made a huge difference. So you went from highs like that to interesting times like going to a deportation camp where the Dutch were brought together supposedly to help with the war effort in sewing and all kinds of manual labor, but it was a stepping stone to the concentration camps. And so we were in the camp that Anne Frank was stayed in. And then our move into Groningen, quite far north, where we actually marched the route. We took the same route that the regiment did, so many years earlier. And it's there that we were able to recreate one of the great photos of the period, knocking on some people's doors, and we recreated the photograph. And that recalled a few days earlier when we had been in Oostendrecht, where one of the most famous photographs of World War II of the Black Watch, where we have 3 pipers overseeing the burial of our dead there. One of the pipers was one of my piping instructors, and it was my first pipe major in the reserve band. To have that kind of connection, and to have that connection on that side that goes way back to all the World War II vets that I grew up with. It was to some extent scary to understand what they had gone through their lifetime that I was able to share with them. And then I think the other overriding factor was meeting people, meeting old-timers that had been there when the Black Watch came through. And they remembered it was the Black Watch. I met a gentleman who was 5 years old, and the Black Watch stayed in his house on their way through and slept on the floor. I met another gentleman who was in a wheelchair, and he had come the day we were coming to hear the bagpipes again. The last time he had heard the bagpipes was when the Black Watch came through his area of Holland, a bit further north. And then we visited a farmer, Chris, I think his name was, where he had dug up artifacts that were obviously Black Watch from the war. And not only to see the artifacts, but to see his pride of having collected them and then being able to show them not only to just Canadians, but that the Black Watch Regiment was absolutely outstanding. And he was part of a delegation where we went to, in Lauren, Holland, Laren, where the school kids had made papier flowers to give to us. They are so concerned about passing on the history, the traditions, the history of Canadians in their part of the town, that it was humbling to receive these flowers from the young kids. And then to meet the gentlemen generally, and certainly a lot of women, that were very much part of welcoming us. Barry, for example, was the president of the local Canadian Legion, where we had a dinner one night. His dedication to Canada and to the Canadian memory was something that had to be remembered. And we met we had the same kind of welcome in a number of towns where they threw civic receptions for us. And, we got to meet the real people, the people that have it so much in their heart that's an everyday part of their lives. But of course, nothing was more meaningful than going to every gravesite of a Black Watch Canadian soldier in Holland, and one of us placing a Canadian flag beside the grave. We had a little ceremony at each one of them, and it made all the difference. And I think what it does too is it shows concretely the extent of the Black Watch's implication in Holland. It was just an incredible experience. I think too that it's. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And a final question to ask you is, this trip was a tremendous undertaking, and do you have any people that you want to thank for putting this trip together?
Well, we thought that 2018, the 100th anniversary of the Mons capitulation on November 11th, 100 years earlier, was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. But I guess you can have twice-in-a-lifetime experiences, because this trip to Holland was absolutely another lifetime experience. And we have so many people to thank, but the two that sort of pop into my mind all the time is Eric Booth, who put this whole trip together, working with everybody in Holland to make sure that it was going to happen, putting the trip together, the travel agency, and his admiration for the history, that we all had to be properly dressed, was beyond belief. And then the other one was, one of my pipe band buddies is Andy Kerr, who, as a pipe major, took care of the pipe band and especially the music. It was, for me, amazing to be playing back in a pipe band after I'd left 30 years ago, and having Andy Kerr as a pipe major. But it was another example of a dedication to history and to remembrance. But there were so many others. I think at this point I should probably thank certainly the Black Watch of Canada Foundation, who assisted with the financing, and even that the foundation is due in large part to generous donations. I'd like to thank Jay Knoppers, a Dutchman himself, who contributed, and our dear friend Fred Coleman, who a Dutchman, absolutely dedicated to remembering Canada's role in World War II. And there. What's it?
Well, there's a lot shared there. Is there anything else that you would like to? Anything else that you'd like to say that you haven't said yet?
I think what I left with was more and more conviction in my mind that it is so important for Canadians, and especially young Canadians, to have the opportunity to go see World War I and World War II sites in Europe, to meet these people that were 5 years old, to go to the graves and see the 16, 17, 18-year-olds, as well as the 30 and 40 years old, who died to save our country. I'm also very conscious of the fact that we had many French Canadian regiments with us. The Black Watch was in our the Black Watch Brigade, the 5th Brigade, included the Régiment de Maisonneuve. Right next in the next brigade was the Fusée Montréal. These were Montreal regiments. You'll never get that story in the traditional telling of history. So I think overriding, it's the Canadians as a whole need to know more about their military history, their World War II history, and to go and actually visit these sites in Europe. I think that we should be having a national program that pays for every youngster, probably 12 to 15 years old, make sure they've gone to Europe at least once on a battlefield tour. Other than that, what an experience. It was a true pilgrimage.